When you think about the Southwest, you often think about cowboys and Indians. But what about the time before that? How did ancient people strive for thousands of years? The ancient pueblos survived off the land they occupied. They relied on trees to structure their homes, animals for meat, and plants for both food and tool fabrications. In the later centuries, they began to farm goods and trade with neighboring villages. In this video, we'll look at 3 different plants found in Navajo National Monument: the Utah juniper tree, green thread, and yucca. The ancient pueblos used these plants when they were occupying this area, but it is also presently used among the Navajo and Hopi tribes. Let's begin. The Utah juniper tree grows abundantly throughout the Navajo Nation. It can be identified by its shrub-like stature and its blue-colored berries. The trunk of the juniper tree was cut and shaped into roof beams of the ancient pueblos' dwellings. The bark was used to coil into ropes and pottery carriers. The ancient pueblos also used the juniper as fire starters and firewood. The Hopi tribe have been known to boil the juniper leaves into a tea as a laxative. The Navajos cut the branches of the juniper tree and burn it to ashes. The ash is sifted and added to a traditional meal called blue corn mush. Recent studies have found 280 milligrams of calcium per 1 gram of juniper ash. How did the ancient tribes know that the juniper tree benefited their health? Without research labs or resources like the internet, it's hard to fathom how they were able to obtain this knowledge. Let's move forward to another plant that contains more health benefits. This beautiful looking plant is called green thread. It is a seasonal plant that only appears during the summer and spring months. This was used by the ancient pueblos as a tea. They would drink this tea as a remedy for the common cold, muscle stiffness, and to ease anxious minds. Today, green thread is considered a hot commodity among the Navajo and Hopi tribes. It is picked, rinsed, and dried into little bundles and is commonly known as Navajo tea or Hopi tea. It is now consumed to relieve upset stomachs, acid reflux, muscle soreness, and can subdue symptoms of UTI. Studies have found a natural flavonoid in green thread called luteolin. Luteolin is an anti-inflammatory, which explains why it has been consumed to aid in health issues. Green thread is a caffeine-free tea and has been commercialized. When green thread is brewed, it has a dark red color and has a sweet, earthy taste. Sugar or honey can be added for personal taste. So far, we've looked at 2 plants that are healthy for inside the body. Now, let's take a look at a plant that cleanses the outside of the body. The final plant we'll look into is the yucca. This plant also lavishly grows in the Navajo Nation. The flowers of the plant bloom in the spring, providing a delicious treat for livestock. The ancient Pueblos braided the leaves of the yucca for rope, ate the fruit as a snack, and used the roots for soap. Today, these uses are practiced by the Navajo and Hopi tribes. Both tribes require the use of yucca leaves in ceremonial dances and traditional games. The root is used to cleanse the body in either everyday use or ceremonial use. A person who bathes themselves with yucca soap will find a refreshing, musky aroma, silk-like skin, and nourished hair. When the soap is finished being used, the person must place the root back into the soil. This signifies a thank you to Mother Nature for providing needed essentials. The yucca plant is also a part of the Navajo clan system. Hashk'an Hadzohe. This translates into yucca strung out in a line clan. The yucca soap has also been commercialized and can easily be purchased. Let's review what we've discussed so far. We first looked at the Utah juniper tree and how its sturdy trunk were used as roof beams for the ancient Pueblos, as well as a source of calcium in traditional Hopi and Navajo foods. The second plant we discussed was the anti-inflammatory green thread, which is consumed to aid in muscle soreness and as a calming agent. The last plant we viewed was the yucca and its nourishing root for bathing. These three plants were used by the ancient Pueblos, and some of those practices have strayed through the centuries because they are still practiced today. The current plant uses of the Hopi and Navajo tribes provide insight of how the ancient Pueblos might have strived on the land they lived on. The ancient people knew which plants were beneficial for their well-being and which plants were to be avoided. They also knew which plants were best for tool making and for fabricating weapons. Their dwellings were well made and have survived, much like how the uses of these plants have been able to remain in practice. When you hit the trails today in Navajo National Monument, keep your eye out for these plants and imagine what would you use them for. Thank you for joining in on this presentation and enjoy the rest of your visit.